what I'll do, I'll kind of give you a brief little introduction, and like I said, some of you were here this morning and saw some of these slides, so I'll move through them fairly briskly as we go here. My name is Jason Campbell. I'm the product manager for supply chain for Command Alkon. I've been with Command for about a year. Prior to that, I was in the industry for about 18 years from the ready mix and logistics side. So, as I said this morning, I know some of the headaches that you deal with every day, and so I'm hoping that we can get some solutions for you. Supply Connect is going to help bring that to you. So, the objective to this is, what we're doing from a material requirement standpoint is we kind of flying blind. I really want you to read this antitrust language. Hang on just a second here. Okay, so, I'll talk about our supply chain line, and you've heard this over and over again from the conference about how we are all one supply chain, right? For us to work from the quarry and the mill all the way to the ready mix truck being delivered to the job site. We've all got to work as one, right? We're dependent on each other for success. Our challenge is over the years, these two processes have separated. We manage each part of the supply chain separately. You have one supply chain, but in this case, it's acting as two. And everyday challenge is that the more volatile the ready mix side is, which is, if you were to describe ready mix, it would be volatile. The more volatile it is, the more unorganized and costly this is. And so a lot of times we're sitting back waiting to see what happens with that volatile side of the ready mix, and the information we're getting is not fast enough, it's not clear enough, it's not accurate enough, and so everything we do is centered around trying to get our hands wrapped around what the ready mix group is trying to do, and those two things don't always go together, right? And I talked about this morning, and you're going to hear about this a lot, but these key cogs, right, they're really three main parts of the supply chain: material supplier, cement aggregate, raw materials, admixtures, transportation providers, and the ready mix producer. Each one of these cogs have their own challenges. Each one of them have their own processes. But these three have to work in unison together for each of us to be successful. Any kind of bottleneck, a slowdown within any of these cogs is going to affect the other groups in the supply chain. And we live this every single day, trying to get our materials dispatched and materials delivered to our plants. And we're trying to get to the same goal, right? When we get the material delivered, hopefully on time. So I went over these, some of these this morning. The pain points. The main thing I want to take away here from your ready mix plants, the pain point is running out of materials, right? You do whatever it takes to make sure that you do not run out of materials at a ready mix plant, because when you do, the cost is great. Worst case, you've got tear outs, you've got quality issues. Best case, maybe you're delivering ready mix from a different plant. It's a little more expensive, right? If you're running out of materials at a plant. A lot of material trucks stacking, waiting at plants. Inventory data is inaccurate. Higher cost per mile. Now, either you have your own tankers and your cost per mile is high because the trucks aren't moving as fast as they should, or as efficient as they should. Or if you're using a third-party hauler, I hear a lot of material ready mix producers say, hey, that's the trucker's problem. Well, it becomes our problem because when it comes time to get rates, what do you think they base these rates on, right? If a transportation provider can be a little more efficient with customer A versus customer B, who do you think they're going to give better rates to, right? So it absolutely affects the ready mix producer as well. And then you got charges and fighting over charges and demurrages and things like that. The reason this is such a problem is because, I talked about the dynamic ready mix environment. Things happen so fast, and we can't adjust to them quick enough on the material side. We can adjust to them on the ready mix side because we know exactly what's going on, but getting that information back upstream is a challenge. So we're really lacking a transparency throughout the supply chain, and that's a real problem for the end ready mix producer. But it's not the only, ready mix producer is not the only one suffering here. Transportation provider, like I said, either a third-party person or your own truck. Inefficiencies, this is a big one. Wait times at the plants. I come from a vertically integrated environment, and the cement's biggest customer was me, but I was also their biggest pain, right? Because a plant that was made yesterday didn't get communicated the changes of what happens. You get trucks delivered to plants and they can't unload, right? So 7 o'clock load can't unload, you gotta need that truck for 10 o'clock. What happens now? Now you're running behind. That's now the entire system starts breaking down, right? this lack of communication. So, you guys know the pain that's involved in this. What we're dealing with here is a lack of visibility and lack of communication. And, visibility is a word that I say a lot, but it's very important. It's something that we take for granted in some parts of our business, but we just haven't had it in the material replenishment side. So if you look at both sides, we have it in the ready mix piece, we don't have it in the supplier. Does that make sense? We have entire teams built around managing this ready mix delivery loop, but we're lacking that on the material side. In the ready mix standpoint, why do we need this visibility? Well, obviously it's because of service, but also we don't want to go broke giving service either, right? So there's a real focus on keeping trucks moving, making sure you know what's going on at the end customer, making sure you know when that mixer truck gets there, he can unload because you got another one coming behind that. And oh, by the way, your 7 o'clock order needs to be finished because you got a 10 o'clock order coming up, right? There's entire teams built around keeping these trucks moving. When you compare that to how we manage the upstream, the raw material side, number one rule, don't run out. That's pretty much it. Right? Don't run out of material. Try to do it as efficiently as you can. That's great. But when in doubt, see rule number one, right? And we do this because we do whatever it takes to keep rule number one. We spend whatever it takes to put as many people as we can around it because there's so much risk involved in that. The easiest way to do that is just keep your plants full. I was talking this morning, if you got a plant that holds 10 loads and you're going to use 2, well, obviously you need 2 loads delivered, right? I mean, that's how we manage every plant. It's we're managing with the consumption instead of the demand. When the truth is, that 10-load plant is going to use 2, but tomorrow you're only going to use 1. So what? You don't really need cement delivered that for 3 days, right? For example. We're not using the capacities that we have at our hand, and we're not using the visibility that we can also have from our ready mix demand. We're going to talk about that a little bit when Jacob kind of shows you kind of how he does his every day. The other thing is stacked trucks. I've always seen nothing makes a plant manager feel better than to walk up and see 2 tankers lined up at his plant because he knows, I'm not going to run out of material, I'm good, right? The truck's sitting there, that's their problem, right? All I know is my plant's good, I'm not going to run out of times. I'm not going to run out of material. What he doesn't see is those 2 trucks sitting there waiting that are going to be there for the next 3 hours need to be somewhere else in 4 hours, right? So we get back to that network effect and the inefficiencies it's affecting everyone. This is my favorite, start me at 7 and turn. I think I heard someone talk about this morning. This is the out of sight, out of mind method. I'm starting to pour concrete at 7, so have a tanker there at 7. And then when you're done, go get another load and bring it back, and then I'll tell you when to stop, okay? That can cause issues too because there are so many things that go on during the day that you don't see, but that truck is just out there coming back, going and coming back, going and coming back. Sometimes we do try to do it efficiently, and this is the world that Jacob comes from, and myself as well. If you're doing it centrally, maybe you run the material requirements report out of Command Series. I used to run it. You're on the phone with plants all day. How's your inventory? Okay, let's get the demand. Let's put a plan together. Okay, it looks good. And what happens when you get all that stuff printed, you have a plan, everything changes. So now you're going to have to go run all that stuff over again. And meanwhile, the cement suppliers are waiting for us to tell them what to do because they're waiting on us to get our orders. And so you can see what happens with this lack of communication, this lag of communication that we have going back upstream. So what we're doing is we're flying blind, and you're going to hear me talk about 3 key pieces of information that we need. And it's 3 questions, 3 simple questions. How much material do we have? How much material do we need? And when do we need the material? Those are pretty basic questions. They're fairly simple questions, but we spend a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of people trying to stay on top of these 3 questions and get answers to them. The reason is because we need these answers all day long in real time. And once we get the answer, what happens? Everything changes. So the answer to these 3 very simple questions are changing constantly, and we're trying to, you're going to throw more people at it. Let's hire more people, let's spend more hours, let's spend more money trying to get the answer to these questions. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get these 2 separate parts of our supply chain back talking together and back working together. And what you're going to hear me talk about and what you'll hear Jacob talk about today is the visibility and getting the information to flow back. That's what Supply Connect is going to do. It's going to link your outbound ready mix demand. It's going to turn it into a material order, and it's going to give you a replenishment plan. So the goal of Supply Connect, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the right material to the right plant at the right time. Not all the material to every plant, right? That's how we might do it now if we're trying to replenish via consumption. I don't want all the plants full. I need enough. What we need at the end of the day is enough material to do the concrete that we have scheduled, plus a little buffer if we want to add buffer. And you're going to be able to set that up in Supply Connect. And the reason this is important is because the risk involved with running plants out of materials is huge, but also we feel like that we can reduce our costs at the same time. You can do both, right? We historically have not. It's either one or the other. But if you increase that information flow and you increase the visibility, you can keep your plants full of material, with enough material to service your customers at the same time, not go broke doing it. And again, I'm going to get back to I broke the record for as many times as I said the word visibility this morning, and by the end of the conference, it's visibility, I'll be saying it in my sleep. So what I'm going to do now is I'll turn it over to Jacob, and he'll kind of give a little background of what he does, and then we'll kind of we'll show you some of his Supply Connect environment and how he uses it, and then we really want to have a discussion with you, open up some questions, and we'd love to answer some questions for you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm Jacob Davis. I'm the operations manager for Wayne Davis Concrete. I've been in the industry for about 7 years, actually. I started right out of high school, worked up through the lab, and found out I loved the industry, so I ended up going to school for it. Graduated from Middle Tennessee with a concrete industry management degree, and been working as operations manager for the last 2 years. What led me to look for something like this is just the separation between plants and material replenishment. It was such a difficult thing. You're calling plants every day, getting the numbers. The only thing you're working off of is a notebook. The numbers you're getting from the plants are hours old, especially from the evening to the morning. There's a lot of things that change through then. So we tried to streamline the process, live inventories, ever-changing demands that kept up with things like that. And reducing the time of scheduling in the afternoons. You sit down at 3 o'clock every day after everything kind of evens out for the next operation day. And you spend from 3 to 5 o'clock trying to plan the next day that you're going to work with. Plans change 2 to 3 times in that 2-hour time period. So you're doing a lot of work, pulling a lot of reports, making a lot of changes and a lot of phone calls in that 2 hours. When you're done by 5 o'clock, usually you're not. And try to do a better job of job handoff. Somebody goes out of town, I'm out of town, somebody else can sit down, use this, the Supply Connect and kind of take with it. It's funny, Monday, I tell my boss I'm coming to New Orleans, and he's out of town that usually does it when I'm gone. And Richard, who does it when we're gone, is here too. So, I'm left with, we got to get this guy trained. So I trained my area supervisor, who is, the person that worries to death about everything. We did a cookout last week for our office, fed about 50 people, and he was in charge of cooking for everybody. And he told me the night before, he said, Jacob, I couldn't sleep at all last night. I was worried to death about how we're going to get all this food cooked. So, we're talking about somebody that worries to death about everything. In about 2 hours, showing him how to use Supply Connect, I had him comfortable with how it worked, and never having done the job. How do I use it? Or how do I used to use it? You sit down every day, run the material requirements report, put it into this Excel sheet that I had built, call around to the plants, get our numbers, and then it would end up giving us, an end of the day proposed ending inventory. Then I would make my schedule that way, start scheduling my tankers, and we had a job, take jobs away, so you're running the report again. A load shows up that you didn't think about, so you're rerunning your numbers. It's just a long, drawn-out process. The issues with the old way is just the time involved, running reports, calling the plants, jobs changing yardage, large amounts, time changes, even inventory levels being inaccurate and things like that. And my cement supplier would call me, hey, one of the customers in the area has canceled a load, can you hold something somewhere? Hey man, hang on, let me call around. Since Supply Connect, it's right then, he calls, I can hold it at this plant.
So this is live. So if you want to come over here and kind of run through this, or I can drive it for you if you want me to. Sure.
So this is the inventories page of my Supply Connect. I use this for our cement and our fly ash, our cementitious materials. We actually have our admix guy tapped into just the admixtures inventory to let him, allow deliveries itself. But basically what this shows is in our market we're having a severe fly ash shortage. So up here at the top are our fly ash numbers for all of our plants, sorted by inventory levels. Obviously our Union City plant's out of fly ash. The red's out, yellow is safety stock. I have it set below 1 load. So when we're below 1 load of fly ash, it turns yellow. And on down here at the bottom, we've got green, which is opportunity. I've got mine set at, they're all different. Ours are set at 1 load below capacity. I know that once this turns green, I can't hold a load of whatever material. And then, of course, down here at the bottom, blue is no action, silos full, I can't hold anything. So when you're making choices every day, it's a visual right off the bat. Where can I send trucks? I know green and yellow is where I need to focus. Blue, I really don't have to pay attention to it right now.
You can also, I'll add, you can sort this. So right now I've got this, you want to look at this fly ash. So you sort the material and it'll sort it by material. If you want to sort it by, put your critical plant at the top, it's just a quick click. You got your plant that's out plus your safety stock, and you can also sort by location. There's his ball ground plants, there's his Calhoun plants, Carrollton. It's got a filtering function as well, so I just want to see fly ash. Just a quick type in there, it'll show you all your fly ash. So it's very intuitive, and you can use it and set it up however you want.
You go to the events.
You go to the events.
This is what the events tab looks like. Over on the left, this is pulling back the material requirements from Command Series. It's a live, ever-changing. When the plant's put in an order into dispatch, it pulls the requirements for that mix in and it populates it here. And then it also gives you a demand graph. It takes into account the same colors that we saw on the inventory page. And it shows you at what points your inventory levels will change. So I know right now, Union City tomorrow, I have to have a load of cement there by at least 8:15 is what that looks like, 8:45. So it takes, you look at this, you sort mine by criticality. I start at the top when I'm scheduling, I work my way down. We add loads in to see how it affects the demand through the day. And, I just pretty much work from the top down on each plant.
And same thing, so you've got these guys down here. Mm-hmm. So on this one, Jacob, so your cement at Rockport, if you were going to get a load of cement delivered there, what does this tell you? When can you get a load?
Technically, we can hold it around 7:15.
Yeah.
What that looks like.
So if he gets there before then, he's going to be waiting. Yeah. Your guy hadn't scheduled any loads yet.
I didn't show him how to do that.
Okay.
I didn't want to overwhelm him.
That's not bad. Okay.
But I've checked up on him since then. Like I said, he's the guy that couldn't sleep at night because he was scared we weren't going to get enough food cooked. And I asked him, Keith, how's it going with it? And he said, man, I love it. It's streamlined. It's great. There's no guessing at what I need to do. It's all laid out right here.
You want to dig into a material or plan a load, or you want to do it? Which one would you plan? This one?
Well, I know that we can't get any fly ash tomorrow, so we go straight to Union
So that's
City
good.
RC.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. It shows they're starting here at 5 o'clock in the morning. So depending on what other plants look like, what time my guys got off, I could have a load there at 5 in the morning. So I'd go ahead and schedule a load when the plant started. And I usually schedule a load and then go back to the events tab, is what I do. Mm-hmm. And just see where that puts me at for the rest of the day. So I know right now in Union City, I don't have to have another load of cement. They can get through the rest of the day without, dedicating the truck down there. I don't have to have a truck down there, just turn it, send one load, he calls me, hey, we're going somewhere else. So then I look up here again, where's cement?
Here, let's just look in this page is the same way. You can filter out how you want it. So if I just want to see your cement, all you got to do is just put that in. It's just going to filter out everything but your cement. So
Just plan loads that move down, go back and see how it affects my demand for the rest of the day. There's no turning trucks unless it's required. We're doing a job that's 100, 120 yards an hour. You pretty much need a turn. But it allows you to look at the whole day, and there's days that I've planned our drivers' entire day. From start to finish. In my notebook, I know exactly what they're doing because you can go in here and plan it. You can see how it changes. You know how long it takes for them to go certain places. You know when to forecast the next loads, and so the whole day's scheduled. In 30, 45 minutes from start to finish of their day. And as far as the plants down here at the bottom, I may even look at the next day, like rock. Go into the 10th, go look at Rockmart. So really, Rockmart don't need a load of cement today or tomorrow. So I know that I can focus on other plants. Going through the day. You can even plan 2 to 3 days a day. I got a big job coming up, and it's scheduled in Command Series. I'll go ahead and look at it. What kind of hourly demand am I looking at? When do I have to start? Can I let another supplier haul this up until a certain point? And with this, it allows you to do that.
Talk about, so I brought the example this morning about having the ability to seek less expensive cement sources. And kind of the way it was from a terminal to the mill.
In our market, we are located fairly close to a cement mill and the terminal. So, of course, usually your mill price is cheaper. There's no freight involved in it as opposed to the terminal cost. So, looking at this, you can see, do I have to have this load of cement come from the terminal right then, or can I turn them out and go to the mill where it's a little cheaper material and bring them back, save a little cost of that.
So, previously on a busy day. It's not even worth the risk. You would
one
just
load
say,
to the mill,
yeah,
and then the rest of it's out of the terminal.
Just to keep you safe. But now you're able to see, I've got 3 hours worth of material at this plant, so I've got time to go get that less expensive material. Any questions so far? We can go back to the inventory page if you had questions about that, or we can stick here with the demand. I mean, this is all real information, like I said, and it works with Integra too. I don't know if you have any Integra users out there, but any of your dispatch systems, Command Series and Integra, it's reading the demand out of that, and we're pulling that in, and this represents the exact same thing that your ready mix dispatch is scheduling and how they're scheduling it.
It's tied into the demand bank system to get what they've got in on-hand inventory.
That's correct. That's correct.
And it's live changing. I've VNC'd into a batch computer, watch them put in the ticket. They hit submit, it shows up it's like it's just that quick.
How many ready mix producers do we have out there? So how do you order your materials now? What would you say is your biggest pain point right now from a material standpoint?
Right now, we haul our own material, but we just keep everything full.
Okay. All right.
Just turn and burn all day long. Keep stacking material until we can't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you probably used to do the same.
Yeah. There's days that you kind of still run that mentality, but it's not filling up the plan. It's, let me load all these available trailers I got on the ground, because then the next day I can throw them out wherever I want to. It's not turn and burn to the plants. We're turning the yard at the office. We got 4 or 5 trailers. Let's load them up. We'll load those as opposed to the plants.
I think that from people that have, like you, that have your own fleet, one of the biggest fallacies that's out there is we spend tons of money trying to track a ready-mix truck and then put the units in and see where it's at and keep them real efficient. And a lot of times you invest in your own fleet to save the haul cost of the cement. But we sometimes miss the fact that the trucking is as important in that. Because turning and burning is what you do when you're busy, but if you can not have a trailer sitting at a site that's full, and he can actually take that trailer to where it's needed, or you have 5 trailers scheduled and the load cancels, and now you can distribute that through your network, because that same $1.50 a minute trucking cost for ready mix applies to the tankers too.
Absolutely.
And that's really what this is about. It's about changing that perspective of trying to manage that fleet from a pure trucking standpoint, almost like it's a mini business, because at the end of the day, it costs you money, and it hits your bottom line, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, it kind of changes your mindset, like Teddy said. You look at it, I'm a separate entity to the business. I'm the dedicated hauler for our company. It's not looked at so much as an in-house thing. I try to look at it like am I making money doing this?
I talk to some producers that they're not 100% with their own fleet, but they haul 80% with their own fleet, and then they have to do 20% third party. And I always ask them, wouldn't you rather take care of all your plants with your private fleet and not have to worry about the third party hauler? And it's a resounding yes, absolutely. But why do you need that extra 20% of third party? Because I don't know. I'm scared. I don't want to run out of material. If you can have this visibility, make decisions like Jacob made with going to different sources and things like that, and you open up that visibility, you're basically reducing your fleet by 20% and still keeping your plants and material, and that's the whole key. Right? So now you're not having to worry about going out and getting third-party pricing, because your internal fleet turns are going up, and so it becomes kind of a profit center, right? Depending on how you manage them. Well, I worked with a company. We had a private fleet, and a lot of private fleets are basically used to make sure you don't run out of cement. And when you think about it, they can actually be used to make money.
I'm flip-flopping on that. I let the cement terminal, the cement companies haul me.
Okay.
Well, I can't haul for what they're giving me a haul rate for. I can't even touch it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not even gonna waste my time trying to haul.
Yeah.
All I do is haul my fly ash or slag cement or something like that. It's close by.
And the cement provider is basically giving you an FOB price you're getting
Definitely
all the
delivered.
Yeah.
Give me a delivered price that I can't touch.
Right.
If you say Reschenberg, when you talk to your cement providers, the price goes down by $10.
We look at it for truck efficiencies. If I can pull my semis off of hauling tanks and putting them in the belly dumps, if I can, during the day, looking at efficiencies, and if I can help use this to, rather than try and keep it full, keeping my trucks more efficient, and then being able to maybe not have as many trucks,
That's
Well,
that's the exact point.
Yeah, and there's ancillary effects too, because now your dispatchers are putting good orders in because this is affecting it. Your batchmen are updating the inventories when the ticket arrives, like we always want them to. And so this, not only is it helping you realize, but it's also getting more of a unified utilization from the other products. So you can get this information because, Jacob, he'll testify, his batch guy isn't updating the inventories. You're on the phone pretty quick.
That's Kerry's brother,
Yeah.
Kerry Miller, his brother is one of our plant managers.
Oh, hell.
But like you said, the visibility's there. We're hauling our own ice trailers. So, I know that, hey, we need to go pick up a load of ice. Well, yeah, I can spare it, driver. Go get this ice trailer and go get a load of ice. Or, hey, I need to go home. I have something going on. Is it okay if I leave? Yeah, man. Look, I'm here. I'm good. You go on. We'll take care of it. We'll get back at it tomorrow.
Without a product like this, the potential for running out of cement in a silo, the potential of having a pull joint, the potential offsets the trucking costs because you can't get to that real-time information. So you absorb that trucking cost, you absorb that inefficiency to offset that what if happens, and that's why you get all these over-ordering of all the cement from your plant guys because they just want to cushion themselves against inaccurate information. And what this does is it brings an awareness throughout the organization.
So what we're doing, the visibility is one thing, using it as a planning tool is another. And I talked this morning about constraints. So preloading this with constraints. For example, I'll bring up the 7 o'clock. So I come from the ready mix industry, so 7 o'clock is the magic hour for everything, right? But we order all our cement at 7 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because that's when we're making concrete. So I want tankers in my yard ready to go. What that does is, number one, it gums up your ready mix plant, and number two, it gums up the cement plant. A large percentage of the tankers sitting in line at a cement mill at 7 a.m. don't need that cement, right? We're ordering it because we're pouring concrete. So what we're going to do with Supply Connect is we're going to be able to block out windows, and so you're going to be able to see, hey, I don't want to take any deliveries at my ready mix plant between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., right? So let's push those trucks out. What's it going to do to my inventory? You're going to be able to see it in here. So now the entire network starts getting a little more efficient. Fill them up, go do something else, come back in the afternoon to fill the plant up again, right? And so now these tankers are turning, okay? Because, to Teddy's point earlier, we used to take this for granted on the ready mix side. We're having to do this now on the trucking side because of all the stuff that's going on. And we're actually going to talk about this in the next session about the trucking shortage. I mean, everyone knows about the trucking shortage, but on the flip side, you've got the demand increase too. And so we're going to have to get better with what we have. And we can't get better with the trucks we have until we can have the visibility into everything that's going on. And so we've taken it for granted on the ready mix side. We've got to apply it to the upstream material as well. Same drivers. I mean, how many of you are trying to hire ready mix drivers right now? Everybody, right? Well, trying to hire tanker drivers too, the rock truck drivers. And guess what? They talked about Amazon in the previous meeting. They're trying to hire drivers too. So we're all after the same drivers. The difference is our demand for our product. We're going to keep building stuff, and so we got to figure out how to get our stuff delivered with what we have. We can't throw more drivers at it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
For companies that are vertically integrated, so with this, the ready mix group, we have this, and would it feed back to the supplier, like to the cement mill, as to what they need?
Sure. It depends on who wants to use it. I mean, that's the beauty of this. I mean, we've got logistics companies using it. We have admixture companies using it. The whole key to this is opening up that line of visibility up and down the supply chain. So absolutely, there's no reason why a cement company couldn't see what the real demand is at that ready mix plant. Now, assuming the partnership is there and that they're working together, but from a vertically integrated standpoint, I mean, absolutely. I mean, so that from the mill to the terminal to the trucking to the ready mix plant, this information is available for everyone. You bet.
We're doing it on the admixture side already with one of our suppliers.
Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we in the past 2 months opened it up to our admixture provider. He can see our inventories, just admix inventories. You can set up the user to see just what you want them to see, be able to change just what you want them to change. So he can see our events, our demand, and our inventories. So we pretty much just give it to him. You keep us full. It's up to you. I don't want to call you 2 times a month and say, hey, where's my admixture? So he runs with it. He says it, allows him to better schedule deliveries. I know that I can hold this much at this plant and this much at this plant, so I'll put this much on the tanker. It seems to have helped him and it's helped us.
How is your cement shipments as they come in? How is it being inputted? Is it the real data, or is it just a budgeted number based on shipments, or how? You see what I'm saying?
When the delivery ticket arrives at the batch plant, or the ready mix plant, the dispatcher there will enter in the demand batch and we'll easily see it.
Then you'll see it. Okay. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, it's real time. It'll update.
I mean, it's like I said, I looked into the computer, they hit submit in the batch computer, when they put the ticket, hit submit, it immediately updated on my screen.
So it adjusts as he ships, and there's no materials coming in, it goes down, the inventory level does as the plant ships concrete out here.
Yeah, as they ship concrete, the demand changes, of course, your material demand goes down. The spacing that's set up in the projects, it knows, how much material you're going to use per hour based on these amount of orders. So that's how it builds your demand throughout the day. Once you dive down into the event, it shows you, X amount of pounds in this 15 minutes, X amount of pounds. So you pretty much have like an hourly material demand.
I've been asked all the times, what happens when the guy at the plant doesn't put the ticket in? okay, which is a real concern. I mean, they need to put this information into the plant. My answer is you're going to know real quick which plant's not putting their material in, because as that plant depletes its material, it's going to show it. When it hits a certain level, the color's going to change. It's going to come up here to the top, and you're going to see, hey, wait a minute, I had a load schedule. What's going on? You know which plant is not doing what it's supposed to do, and you get a quick phone call and you get it fixed. Versus guessing when you have multiple plants and you don't know what's going on at one time. This is going to put it right in front of you. So that's a key point. And back to the admixture thing, I was sitting in his office, and his one of his plant managers called and said, "Hey, our admixture is it's getting down a certain level or something. Can you call the admixture supplier?" He said, "Yeah." He called him, and the admixture sales guy said, "Well, yeah, I know that. Your delivery's set for in the morning." So this proactive communication, he already knew it, and he'd already had it taken care of. And so that's the kind of communication that can come out of something like this, opening up that visibility.
When I heard about Jacob doing this, one of the fears I had was the admix supplier, and not that they do this on purpose or anything, but like, say, loading them up with accelerator engine. But it can completely control every reorder point. It can control the everything. So he has absolute control, and it's up to him to change it when he feels he needs to change it and adjust what quantities are coming.
Are you doing any remote batching? Or are you just calling? They would just call in.
We have done that, we're just not currently. The plants that are out, we're just completely out. We're not letting them let driver go in and load himself right now.
All right. We'll be around for a little bit if you have any questions or want to see anything else. Please head this way.